Call the meeting to order. Should introduce what the meeting is. This is the Village of Lake Bluff Architectural Board of Review. It's a regular meeting. What is this? It's January 7th.
Yep.
Happy New Year, everybody. It's our first meeting of the year. Okay, call to order. I did that. Roll call.
Member Callahan?
Here.
Member Dahlman?
Here.
Member Deegan?
Here.
Member Dittmer?
Here.
Member Kerouac?
Here.
And Chair Hunter?
Here.
And Member Waymire is absent.
Okay, considerations of the meeting minutes of, October 1st. Anybody have any comments about those minutes? I'm not hearing anything?
No.
Means there's no comments?
I don't have any comments.
I move to approve as submitted.
Okay, second?
Thank
All
you.
right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving right along. Is there anybody in the audience that has something that is not on the agenda? I think probably not, so we'll move on to the next one. Since these are both public hearings, one of the requirements of a public hearing is anybody that's going to stand up there and speak has to get sworn in. So anybody that's going to stand up has to stand up and raise their right hand and repeat after me. This is, actually, you can remember the whole thing. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and the testimony you are about to give? If so, please say, I do. Thank you. Okay. All right, first on the agenda then is Eric with the work on the library.
I think maybe we just need to hit a key on the, I'm sorry. I can do that. Yeah, okay.
We should talk to Chuck.
Doesn't
this
like me.
afternoon. Chuck Adams is the guy that.
Well, we'll have a PowerPoint presentation, very short one here, I assure you, in just a minute or two. I think I'm known to pretty much everybody. Eric Bailey, Library Director. The proposal that I had for you this evening is pretty self-explanatory. It is to provide a capstone to the roofing project that was performed at the end of 2018 by cladding the beams that extend above the roof of the wood building annex in aluminum. So the library is very conscious of the environment, the neighborhoods that neighbor us, and our impact there. In addition to the other information I provided, I have some samples of the potential colors of the cladding here with me this evening, which you can pass around. Is it?
I think it's coming on.
Okay.
Really?
Well, I'll just keep rolling here, and we'll have the PowerPoint with us in a moment. So as technology.
Yeah, right.
Exciting. Okay, well, as I'm sure everybody recalls, in 2018, the library roof on both sides of the building, both the regular library building as well as the wood annex building that's currently occupied by the museum, were found to be in pretty bad condition.
Whoops.
And we were having a lot of trouble with leaks on both sides of the building, and a decision was made to replace the roof with a new asphalt shingle roof, which we did, as well as doing a lot of attendant work on the flashing, work on the masonry. We had some extensive cracking with the brickwork, on some of the brickwork that was on the roof as well. And
There we go.
overall, that
That was
has...
the secret.
Yes, here we go. So we're already onto the second slide here. I was talking about the roof replacement in 2018. And overall, the impact of that has been very, very positive. There has, however, been a small ongoing leak in the Lake Bluff History Museum, in that wood building annex. The first thing that we did when that leak recurred, and it's been a fairly small leak certainly compared to the amount of water that we were getting in the building in 2017, 2018, was to bring out the roofers who did the work in 2018 Caulking those beams, which is work that we've regularly had done in the past, was part of their scope. So they came out 3 times and did progressively more and more caulking work on those beams, and that provided a short-term remedy to that problem, so that the leak has not recurred since, I believe, August. Thank you. Let me know if you can't hear me, if I'm holding this too far away. So then, having done that, we took a look at the history of the problem as well as what our possibilities for a long-term solution might be. And really, the history of the problem is that we've had a long history with the wood building annex of water getting in via those beams. When the conditions in a storm are right, water infiltrates those beams. You can see here in the picture that I provided here, the beams in question. So this is the inside of the building, of the History Museum here. These beams here that run along the roof, they run up to the peak, and then they extend outside. We'll have a look at some of the exterior pictures, and when the conditions are right, water gets into on the exterior portion of the beams and then travels down and can fall usually around here in the mezzanine area. But sometimes, excitingly, it can run along those beams and fall pretty much anywhere along their length. So it's a really fun leak that way. But it's a problem that we've had that's been a recurring one. About every 2 years, we've had to have somebody out, dating all the way back to the first year after the roof was completed, to do some extensive caulking and repair work on those exterior beams to eliminate any occurrence of this. So that being the case, and wanting to look towards a longer-term solution than just committing ourselves to always having these roofers out every couple of years for this regular work, we contacted Engberg Anderson, who was the engineer we worked with on the roofing project in 2018, and fleshed out what our options were. The option that we landed on that was recommended to us as our best remedy for this problem was to provide aluminum cladding for the exterior portions of the beams. So the portion that sticks out from the building, out from the roof, that's not visible in the picture here, and no cladding then on the beams that are visible inside the building. So I have then, and you have in your packets, some details on the technical aspects of what that would entail with the cladding there. You've got the information. I have it here as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that. We'll kind of circle back to that if anyone has any questions, and kind of hop past that for now to focus more on the architectural elements that we've got. And this is a picture that you have in your packet here, and it is basically a view I'm sure everybody's familiar with. It's looking at the library from the north side on Scranton Avenue. And you can see here the beams that we're talking about just barely. They're the cross points here, these right there. This is already covered, the cross piece is. So not exactly looking from Scranton, which is the most heavily traveled side of the library, a very dominant architectural feature there. Much more dominant looking from the south side. This is a view from behind the museum building where you can see the beams here. And the 3 that are going to be, that is proposed to clad in aluminum are these here. These, of course, are already brickwork, exterior portion of the building in this case. Haven't been problem leaks on those. It's the 3 in between there that are the wood beams that have been bringing the water in and are the subject of this proposal. This is also a picture in your packet. I've got 2 other ones to add as well. This is a picture from across Oak Avenue, which is probably the second highest traffic side of the library. And while the beams are more visible here, they're still not exactly what I would call a really dominating feature besides not really being an attention grabber in terms of the profile of the library. They're also pretty high up and therefore not really subject to a lot of up-close inspection. And then the last picture I have, this is behind the library side of the building. And again, the portion of the beams that here we're talking about are just these three pieces right here. So that, in summary, is what we're looking at and why we're looking at it. And really, in conclusion, the roof work that was performed in 2018 was really of huge benefit to both the library and the museum, and dealt with the majority of issues with leaks in both sides of the building. But some small leaks have occurred in the wood building annex, which is occupied by the Lake Bluff History Museum. Since the construction of that annex, we have had problems recurring about every 2 years with water infiltrating along the wood beams, which has necessitated, whenever that has happened, 2 to 3 visits on average from a roofer, doing a lot of caulking work and some light repair work on those beams to make the problem go away for the next 1.5 to 2 years. As this has been a recurring problem, we're seeking a long-term solution as a capstone to the 2018 roofing project. The colors presented for the aluminum cladding represent the library's strong desire to continue to fit in architecturally with the neighborhoods that surround us. And as noted here, it's one of the less dominating features architecturally of the building in terms of visibility, I would say, and how present and visible it is to most of the public in our highest trafficked sides around the building. So, with that said, I am presenting tonight with approval sought ahead of spring 2020, when it is expected that the work will be performed, and applying now with sufficient lead time to allow for discussion by the ABR and the village board, if so desired. So thank you for your time this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Matt, start with you. What do you think?
We're just here to comment on appearance and color, not detail, right? I mean, we don't need to worry about it. That's not our purview, right?
As far as how it's going to work?
Yeah.
No, I mean, we have to trust that the architects
Just-
know what they're doing.
Just the, yeah, so just the aesthetic.
I'm not sure how it's going to work.
Yeah, I'm not
'Cause
sure.
I'm not sure what they're doing, so.
Yeah, and that's my question too, but that's fine. I understand what you're trying to do is you're trying to recreate that beam by putting the mansard brown below the slate gray, right? I mean, that's the concept, right? You're trying to emulate the
Yes.
color of the wood beam.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess I'm okay with that. Usually that bothers me, but I don't have an issue with that. It's,
Do you have a preference to the color that,
yeah, I mean, just the closest to, it's hard because the foil's still on there, but I would say whatever's closest.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
I think the Mansard brown, I'd say, is
Yeah, I
the front
think so
runner
too.
for that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the closest to what's up there at present.
Yeah, I don't have it be, that's kind of limited to what I feel we should be talking about, so I think it's fine. It's a very non-visible element. It's a handsome detail, it's just not,
It is.
you don't even notice it unless you're like walking in some,
It's actually a detail, architectural feature of the building that at times I've kind of really wished was more,
Yeah, right.
more visible, more apparent, because it is kind of an interesting
Right.
aspect and one of the more unique features of that wood building annex. But yeah, I mean, in the highest traffic portions, you don't really see it at all from Scranton
Right.
Avenue, and not much
Yep.
from Oak.
Yep.
Really only if your neighbor standing out on the back
Yep.
deck is it any sort of a significant feature.
all right, yeah, that's all I have.
Sheree?
I agree with comments already made.
Okay.
I don't have anything else to add, so. I don't either. I agree with everything Matt said.
Same.
Okay. Well, I agree with what everybody said, and strangely enough, just a sidebar, the architect for that addition, it was Chuck Adams. I talked to Chuck today. He's down in Jackson, Mississippi. I said, "We're gonna go fix your building tonight." Anyway, okay, I think that's okay, so we'll do a roll call.
Okay, did someone make a motion already?
Oh, nobody made a motion.
I'll move approval.
Recommend approval to the village board? Okay,
Second.
okay.
Now we do a roll call.
Okay, Member Kerouac.
Aye.
Member Dittmer.
Aye.
Member Callahan.
Aye.
Member Dahlman.
Aye.
Member Deegan.
Aye.
And Chair Hunter.
All right,
Okay, motion passes.
does everybody agree with the, since it's already passed, with the, whatever you called it, mansard brown
Yeah. I
color?
think so.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question now that we're done voting?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. So are they thinking that the water penetrates the beam and then goes in and then somehow?
Yeah, it gets into the wood, under the outside of it.
Okay.
The, we've done a lot of work and paid particular attention because of this problem to
Yeah.
the work around those beams to really eliminate any opportunity for it to get in
Yeah.
through that flashing.
Sure.
And that did cut down a lot on the amount of water that was getting in, but there's still a little bit. And
That's
really, we
interesting.
want to get ourselves to a situation where there's zero water coming in from the
Sure.
roof. That's our fondest goal.
Okay.
Another comment. So those aren't glue lamp beams?
They aren't,
Glue lamp. Are they raw?
Yeah, they are,
Oh, they are? Okay.
They're timber?
yeah.
Yeah.
But they're exposed out there in the,
Yeah.
after a while, maybe
Yeah.
that starts to,
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah. And I think that's part of the problem. We've needed more attention to those in recent years, and the caulking hasn't been as
Yeah.
helpful in keeping the water out. So that's, yeah, I mean, it's the elements. The longer they're up there, the more attention they've needed. They're a fantastic design element. You know, it's a great building overall, and feel free to pass it along to Mr. Adams. We're very fond of that.
okay.
Thank you.
So Eric, if you'd like the recommendation to go to village board Monday night, I could put it on the agenda for Monday.
That would be fantastic.
Okay, great, I'll do that,
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you.
That was last year. Okay, so where are we?
The animal hospital.
Animal hospital. Who's gonna speak to the animal hospital? Okay, have at it, guys.
Feel free to, get it queued up. First,
Second to last.
oops,
And there it is.
okay.
And then
Then that's forward and back, and then there's the red button is a pointer.
Okay. Hi, thank you everyone for your time tonight. I'm Brian DeFuscia, one of the co-owners of the Animal Hospital Westlake Forest. This is Dr. Dave McKenna and Ken Just from RWE Design Build. It's our builder. We are proposing, we're going to be leasing the space at 909 Sherwood Drive with the intent to operate. And one of the contingencies of our lease with Smedbo Organization, who is the current owner of the building, is that we need to expand the parking on the north face of the building. We have till January 31st to come up with any concerns that we would have to not be able to do that in order to ultimately decide if we're going to be able to go through with our lease. So what we're proposing is on the north face, currently what's existing is this parking area here. This is an excerpt from our lease document. This is where Smithville is allowing us the rights to use for parking. We do not have access to any of this parking, which is why we have the need to expand north. This is not enough parking for our staff and clients. So we're looking to extend, turn this single load lot into a double load lot on the north face here. Sorry. Thank you.
I should mention that we're on the local cable access TV.
Yes.
So even though we might be able to hear you fine without the microphone, they won't.
Okay. So what we have proposed here is keeping this a single entry kind of round, keeping the traffic flow exactly the same as what it currently is. And we have proposed some plantings to screen the new lot. We're looking at 10 spaces and basically kind of just mirroring what is currently there. As part of this presentation, we are also, we've been told there is a need to enclose the dumpsters, which are currently on the property, and I've found out recently serve both buildings. That is something that we will need to discuss with Smedbo. We, per our lease agreement, have access to the current area where the dumpsters are, so we proposed fencing these in as per the requirement. But I have been trying to get in contact with the president of Smedbo because then they will not have a place for their dumpsters. So my understanding is that gentleman returns today. I wanted to get all of this done and ironed out before presenting to you, but as a result of our time constraints that were put on us from our lease agreement, I am presenting what I have thus far. So currently this is what we are proposing to do, but there will be an issue of 2 more dumpsters to be located on property that we will need to work out with Smedbo organization to determine where they are going to locate their 2 dumpsters. I don't believe this is an issue that anyone was aware of until we started actually submitting applications to you. And then we found the requirement to fence in the dumpsters. That got us thinking about how many dumpsters are we going to have. We assumed the whole time that they had other dumpsters on the property because they gave us use of this area. And as of about a week and a half ago, I found out that that is the only current place for dumpsters. So that issue will probably need to be continued to be addressed. But we would like to look at mainly the proposal of expanding the parking lot north. And I have a blown up as to all the measurements. It will allow, we've got the 15-foot setback from the property line. The street is out here, and the curb runs right about here. The other thing we have, the other thing we would like to propose is we are leasing the building. We don't own the building, we don't own the property, but we would like to help make the area look a little nicer. I think part of the landscaping around the new proposed parking lot would do that. We'd like to add some architectural details to the north and west elevation. So we're proposing some aluminum cladding, awning roof design, and some over the windows. This was a second option. I think we would prefer this first option to just tie in the rest of the building. This would wrap around all the glass front that wraps around from the north to the west. It was recommended that we also add an extra element to try to cover the existing HVAC units on the roof line. So we have that, we added extra along the west elevation to try and accomplish that. Details of our dumpster enclosure design, it's 6 foot, wood fence, metal posts concreted into the ground. The metal detail, the metal elements, posts would be on the interior of the structure. And again, I apologize, we do not have final color designs right now because we are still in the, really just executed our lease and trying to get through the contingency stage of our lease. But we are definitely looking to enhance the building with a taupey kind of a color that will bring out and stand out without being intrusive. Oops. That's what I have for you. I'd be happy to answer questions anyone who has.
Okay, thank you.
I know I'm not starting the question, but can you go back just to the original photograph, the photographs of the original building, so we can have that as a reference? Thank you.
So right now, currently, there's not much in the way of landscape anywhere near the parking area. There's no landscape. There's some bushes at the front entry, and that's about it.
Tim, start at your end.
Okay. Yeah, I think the parking would fill a need, obviously. I think the first parking spot when you're coming in to the lot, that like corner, if you can bring that up. Yeah. So like if you're gonna turn into that first spot, you're gonna have a hard time.
But this right
I'm thinking. Yeah, right there. I think that's gonna get run over a lot. That's the only thing that kind of like, you know.
Okay.
Other than that, the landscaping looks good. And I know you need more spots to park, so, yeah.
What is the landscaping?
It's just that the plantings around the new parking.
No, I mean, I'm just wondering
Oh.
what the plant material is.
So I've got red osier, I'm probably mispronouncing these names. Red osier dogwood, kind of middle here. Those tend to get anywhere you can keep them from 4 feet up to 7 feet high, probably even more, but we probably would keep them somewhat tame. These are some 9-bark, amber jubilee 9-bark that can get 4 or 5 feet tall, stay kind of bushy. And then we have some low yews in the landscape. This is yet to be determined. A little accent plant. We have my eyes are not as good either. We have a proposal for either a cornelian cherry dogwood or a gray dogwood or possibly even like a burning bush. We have yet to finalize the landscape. This was our first kind of go around with our landscape professional. I do want to make sure that we have looked to see that these are tolerant to salt and good plantings for a parking lot type of environment. And so with the separate specimen planting, I wanted to just get a little more information on which variety would go best there and not wither in that area. So I don't know if that answers your question as to what's presented today.
Speaking out of turn right now, but go ahead. Are you done?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, the plantings aren't anything spectacular. They're just parking lot planting
Yeah.
type of stuff,
But they're
so
dense.
it'll do well, you know. I would go with the cornelian cherry dogwood if it was me, so.
Neil?
I agree with your observation, Tim made, it's a good observation that the one part of it will get run over.
Yeah.
On the building, you show two options for the north elevation. Which one are you leaning toward?
Yes, the top one. I think it aesthetically adds more to the building. I will, probably I might be speaking for Dr. McCann as well. Our goal is to improve the aesthetic of the building. If the board felt strongly that those extra awnings didn't do so, we have no objection to going without them. We thought it added something extra to that side. That's the main, people, when you come in, that's what you see. And we felt it would tie the roof line across that glass much better, but that's not something that is, that we have to stick with.
Just take that all the way across.
One question I do have is in the lower right corner, you show the west elevation with that portion that's been added toward the back or toward the side.
This part right here?
Yeah.
Yes, we would be adding.
What happens when it turns the corner?
It stops there, so there is no south elevation roof line. I don't know if I've got a picture. So we'd have awnings over the windows here, and then once the glass starts, which is right about here, it would be full roof element to there, because that's all this, all over the glass, and then there'd be this elevation would be just the top of the roof. None of this and nothing on top of the roof along here would have any extra added elements.
Now, it's not that visible because it's on the back of the building, but it's like that piece that's going out there that just ends, it's just like it's just hanging there. I don't know if you see what I'm getting at.
So this addition, I'm going the wrong way, sorry. This was recommended to us to include. We did not have this on our first submission. My thought originally was just to enclose the glass. That would tie everything together, that all the glass is covered. The full glass is covered by full awning. The smaller windows would be covered by the smaller awnings. But a good point was brought up that there are HVAC units that are visible currently, pretty large ones. And so the thought was maybe we try to help cover some of those from the road as well. I have no objection to not doing that part and to keeping it just over the glass, because I think that still would look nice.
See what everybody else's comments are
Absolutely.
first.
Yeah, absolutely.
I certainly think the awnings help the building, for sure. And if I had a vote on it, I would obviously go with the top one with the awnings over the windows as well. And Bob had brought up an interesting point that, another way to do it would be maybe do spandrel glass instead of whatever that stone material is there, as an alternative to the awnings over the windows. So if you just wanted that to be the focal point for, end capping that west exposure. So just something to throw out there.
I'm not sure I know
So
that.
right now in the top, if you go to the top elevation in your proposed, currently you have the awnings over the windows,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
And so all I'm suggesting is if you wanted to eliminate that over the windows, you could continue remove the stone and do a spandrel glass window so that it just looks like all glass
By
in those.
removing this stone.
That's right,
Okay.
yeah.
So and that's could be a good aesthetic. I guess our concern or our goal here, we don't own this building, and we're trying to get in and improve it without trying to add too much.
Budget.
Yeah,
I get it, yeah,
Yeah.
no worries.
Yeah, it would be, if we could have bought the building, this would be a whole different discussion, for sure. So Smedbo is, our lease is, the building's as is, so anything that we're doing to it, we're trying to do to improve it. But no, I agree, it would keep the glass looking the same all the way across.
Sheree?
I think the awnings are better than the existing. Just make sure that you match the same width of the panel. with-
Sure, yeah, it would be all.
with Ribbing with what's over the
Absolutely.
entrance.
And I don't know if it, I guess I did not specify. Currently, I believe there is one door. This one is what's current, and we will be adding this second, which is why we redid the walk. There's not much of a walk there now.
No.
It's pretty broken up concrete, so we would like to redo that, a nice wide walkway, obviously compliant with all the specifications. So it'll be double width.
Matt, you're,
Yeah, I'm done.
Before I get to the awning part, on the site plan, on the east elevation, where you have that single door, what happens in that whole area?
Is it right here?
Yeah, so that big open area,
So
what's that?
So currently, that's a bunch of Chevy trucks being parked there currently. Our goal, so we have access to this, is we are likely going to try and put our staff back here in a manner that is conducive to us getting in and out. So that is our back entrance. We will likely get, standard deliveries and stuff through the back, though they could also come through the front. But we have these 3 parking spots, and we feel we can easily get 4, 6 other vehicles. There's actually quite a large area back here.
Did you think about where your dumpster is now? Maybe just removing that, add, say, 2 more spots, right? Take over, so you're not, and then move, take over 2 spots maybe that you would have on the back, on that east side. Move the dumpster kind of inside the perimeter there.
Yeah, we didn't initially. We are starting, as I've learned about the potential issue we're going to have with the other building and them needing dumpsters.
Yeah.
That's where I think this has opened up a can of worms, because I think there's going to be, I don't know how we're going to do that. I don't know what their options or if they just overlooked it when we went through our lease.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate location now, where it is. That's just, with cars coming back, it's just gonna be, it's kind of on the main drive for that other back building, or the other, and then, it's just an unfortunate location.
Yeah.
I don't
it
know.
would have to be picked up at night,
Yeah,
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 you
'cause
have
it's,
to roll it out.
yeah, it's right now. So I know you have a lot to deal with, but that's just my one concern, is,
And I appreciate that. Our concern is if we put a big dumpster enclosure in here,
yeah,
we lose potentially a ton of our parking that I don't know that this is enough.
right.
And then we have to kind of go back to the drawing board or possibly not move, because they're not releasing, apologize. They are not releasing currently
Yeah.
any of this parking.
Right, yeah.
So we have a staff on average of 10 to 15 people.
Yeah, so you're taking up a majority.
So, in to your comments, Tim, about that first spot, I thought the same thing, and I thought probably that would be, might that be a staff member who
Yeah.
uses that parking spot up? Just because you're right, no one else is going to make that hairpin turn.
Yeah.
And we get there first, so someone who has a smaller car just pops it right there. We are going to need, whether it be these or these, obviously, out of respect for our clients, we'll choose the furthest away parking spots. But if I can get 6 cars here, 7, 8, 9, we already are going to take at least 4 spots somewhere on this front. So my fear is if we have an actual enclosure set back in here,
Yep.
we're losing a lot more
I
spot.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then if you don't mind going to the elevations.
Yeah.
So I'd love standing seam. I don't, it's a tough building. I mean, it's a great old modern, right? And it has some good details in it. It feels like it's gonna look kind of what it's gonna be, where you kind of apply these awnings to an old tired building. And you're gonna have this brand shiny new awnings on this. So it's a tough one. I'm not saying don't do it. I like the idea. Was to replace that stone, and I get why you don't want to go through that money, but almost celebrate what it is. It has a nice, the materials were updated where the stone is with a different material. That's a number that you don't want to, so I'm just a little concerned that it's going to look like repurposed Wendy's or something. Just, because it's a restaurant detail. You'll see that. Yeah, there you go. And I'm
Our thought was
not
that,
trying to
like-
knock it, but I appreciate what you're doing, and I'd
Yeah.
love to stay, in our development here on, with the portillos and all that, it's beautiful. The standing seam is beautiful. It just feels kind of laid on top. It doesn't end, it just kind of sits there.
We kind of thought the building is quite angular,
Yeah.
especially when you look at,
Yeah.
there's no softness at all
Right.
to any of these. There's no
Yeah.
no curves at all, and so we actually thought that that standing seam look,
Yeah,
and the very angular nature of it,
Yeah.
actually, and this comes out on a diamond.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
on a
sure.
corner.
Uh-huh.
So actually, we thought it actually fit well with. I we looked at another design, and that was just a big box.
vertical, yeah.
And that looked more like a Target to me, or something
Yeah.
like a warehouse kind
Yeah.
of thing. But
I'm just a little concerned it's gonna feel a little applied instead of fully, and it's tough on these, we've all dealt with this type of project, so I appreciate the struggles and, where you are with it. My little concern that it, but I think what you're trying to do is great, and we appreciate that for the community. That's it for
That's
me.
it. That's probably the oldest building in the park. I mean, it really is. That started life as a business machine building when you had add-in machines that did this and ditto machines that did this. That's what was there. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's always been an ugly building. It's because of the stone.
Mhm.
It's just, and I'm sitting here looking at it. I drove by that a couple of times. It's hard to see because of all the trucks now. But just to try to think out loud of what Matt just said, if there's alterations that could be done using a canopy, the beauty of the canopy right now is that it hides the mechanical, or
Mhm.
it hides some of it. And,
pretty tall there.
but to make it look less pasted on, I wonder if you could increase the angle so that it was actually out more. Instead of looking like a quasi mansard, it would almost have more of an angle to it. I'm just talking about around the glass where you have that. That may help a little bit. And then eliminate the awnings on the windows that are on the north and just make those flat, unless that means you have to take the stone off. And I don't know, you're here, if that's a big deal or not. We're talking cost here of a building that is not owned. So I'm just tossing out ideas, because, and the other thing is bringing up what Neil was talking about, the screening for the mechanical that goes along the flat part to the right of the glass point. Could that be set back so it's actually screening the equipment as opposed to attached to the wall? Now, that means you're messing around on the roof.
I didn't even follow that. That was the thought process, was to still have it, but to have it set back further.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, that's actually, I always defer to my guy here, but that makes sense to me, I guess.
It wouldn't be as uniform. I mean, none of this has been fully engineered because we haven't been.
Right.
Before you, when you talked about the return down the south end, it would have to return at least someone, it couldn't end it. Without some sort of return on the south side also. Whether that return, we'd have to see the plan
not that much.
Waukegan and see
Well, and one other thing besides just, the money, is this is also, obviously this is subject to your approval, but we also need SMEDBO's approval on these changes. So if we start talking about other things,
Yep.
we're gonna need to
Go
get
back
their
and-
approval, because it's their building.
Yep.
And so I don't know if they want us pulling the stone off. They are responsible for the exterior shell and the maintenance and all that on there. So I would definitely need to get their approval on that first before then I can propose it for you guys. Again, it's one of those sticky situations.
Yeah,
of-
you get, you're up against some walls here.
Yes.
So you have to solve Smedbo's dumpster problem at your expense.
Yes, well, somewhat. So according to our lease, which has been executed, we have signed, we are currently now with the contingency process. This can only not go through if we choose for it not to go through. So as you saw, they gave us this area. That's where the dumpsters currently are. If we are able to enclose this, then Smedbo has, we would never want to do it this way, but then Smedbo has a problem with where they're going to put their dumpsters, and they're going to have to come before you and decide where they want to put them. I would like to obviously talk with them first and see if we can come up with an agreement, because I think this was just overlooked. So it is a problem. Technically, if the board approved this location, we're ready to operate as this is drawn. But we understand that it does bring a problem up. And if also we start talking about moving these spaces, then Smedbo will need to give us these three spaces. If we're gonna have one big enclosure here, there is just no good area. You talked about, traffic coming through. There is no good area. There's always gonna be traffic coming through. My understanding, this is a loading dock right here. So they have big trucks that come through all the time. This is about 3/4 of this building is all warehouse. So they already have big trucks that make deliveries and shipments out of there now. My understanding is that this has worked for them fine. But I think they're also looking to lease this building. So I guess who knows what will happen, depending on who wants to lease the building from them.
And just out of curiosity, I thought at one time Smedbo was planning to move out recently when they had their going out of business sale there.
So from my short dealings inside this building, they have like 2 or 3 people there and not much going on. So I'm assuming that's what, I know the lease sign is still out on the grass, even though we've signed. So I believe they're looking to relocate.
Oh,
I
okay.
think they need I don't think it's big of a building, is my understanding.
Okay.
So yes, I think they are looking, and I believe that's why they were so adamant about not giving us any of this parking, because we were quite honestly shocked. We thought this is right behind our building. We thought we would have parking for our staff here. And we actually asked for non-exclusive rights, meaning if it's open, can we use it? And that was declined. Sometimes that's attorneys. But I have yet to talk with the gentleman myself. I've only sent 2 emails to him personally in this whole process. That's how early we are on this. So I'm hoping at the end of this week, early next week, I'd love to get face-to-face with them, but at least a phone call with them. Because we've just begun our introduction. Hey, I'm happy to be leasing your building. That's kind of where we're at the early stages. But they were adamant about not giving us more time to get these things figured out. That's why, and I apologize for coming to you guys in this early stage. We kept trying to push them off with the contingencies, because we know this takes time and needs to be thoughtfully vetted. And so we explained to them that this was not going to be a quick stamp off, sure, do whatever you want with parking. But they felt that we would have enough time by January 31st to know if it can be done or not. That's how it was put to us. So we explained that we weren't likely to get full approval at that point, given the timing of the meetings. So again, I appreciate your consideration of even having us present today, because I don't have the exacts on some of the landscaping. And again, this, about a week to week and a half ago, I figured this part out on my own, just by driving over and looking at the building and realizing there's no other dumpsters. And then I spoke to the office manager in this building, and she confirmed that they use those dumpsters and they fill them every week.
Not do that.
And so I thought, well, we're gonna have an issue now. And that was after everything had been submitted with you guys. And I knew this presentation was today. And I reached out to, Magnus is his name, to try and see if we could work through this before this meeting, but he's out of the country, so.
So Ed just had a suggestion that maybe to pick up some additional parking, there's all the lawn to
As you
the,
come in? As you come in?
as you come in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Up here?
I
yeah,
was thinking that's-
where that, all that empty space is,
Back out, or I don't know if there's enough room to do 90-degree parking.
you don't think so?
We couldn't fit it on our side. Couldn't fit the 90-degree.
Well, not where it is right now, but if you came in and took a hard right, and you'd had like maybe 4 90s in there.
It was just a thought.
That dashed line there parallel to that line is the 15-foot setback.
Yeah, so you'd be up over, you'd have like 2.
Get to.
That's all? Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
maybe you could squeeze a third, but then you'd be parking right up on the walk, which might not be